You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, light some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we are back. We are back with some main course here after the Saints' first win on Sunday, September 8th at noon. The Saints came away with a win. They're 1-0 and at the top of the NFC South now. I know it's just week one, but they just completely mollywopped the Carolina Panthers 47-10. Like I predicted that the game was going to be kind of a little bit close, and then the Saints were going to kind of pull away at the end. The Carolina Panthers were never in this game. That just from the opening seconds of this, Bryce Young first play from scrimmage throws an interception. It was over. It was over that, and then the 50+ yard touchdown pass to Rashid Shaheed, and that was just like the nail in their coffin. Just right out of the gate. Like you couldn't make up, and if you're a Saints fan, who dat, you couldn't dream a better opening week one game. Like everyone says, everyone's going to come back to, hey, if it's the Panthers, and no big deal. It was the Panthers. Well, the Saints, they played the Panthers twice last year, and those games were close and competitive up until like the last quarter or so. This game was not competitive at all. And you need to remember, good teams beat bad teams, and don't let them hang around or play down to their competition, which the Saints did not do in this game at all. But anyways, let's kind of go over some of the players here and some of their player stats real quick and see if I can remember exactly when some of these scoring plays happened. So anyways, can I get a menu? And the first one is obviously the passing game here with Derek Carr, who had, I guess you could argue that this was one of his best games as a Saint so far, just in the regards to his completion percentage was good. He threw 3 touchdowns. He wasn't sacked. He's only sacked once, and he had 140.5 quarterback rating. So yeah, Derek Carr, he definitely showed out and looked good. And man, he looked like he had his swagger back. He was flexing on Carolina defenders, and J.C. Horn running his mouth after Derek Carr. I already got 3 of them. I got 3 of them on you. Oh man, that was amazing. Like that reminds me of the 2015, 2016 Derek Carr, like the young Derek Carr before he got his leg broke and stuff. He had that swagger, and if Derek Carr can play with that swagger and that confidence and be trash talking defenders, if he can do that all year and stay healthy, I think things might be looking up a little bit for the Saints. But it is one game. You got to take that with a grain of salt. No matter who the opponent was, it could have been the Kansas City Chiefs or the San Francisco 49ers. It's still just one game in the first game of the season. But he threw 23 times, completed 19 of them for 200 yards. So he's had better games where he had a couple 300-yard games last year. It was just the 3 touchdowns that is super nice there and really nice to see. So yeah, the passing game looked good. The blocking, I'll get more to the offensive linemen here in a bit when I go over like my game pick and MVPs and hot takes. So that's the passing game. The running game, I think that really is what made this win happen and made everything else come easier with all the play action and pre-snap movement and stuff. Like you don't have any of that if you don't. You have some of that, but it doesn't work if you're not able to run the ball. And they were able to run the ball for what 170 or 180 yards, I believe. Trying to see here. I thought I had a total somewhere. But anyways, yeah, they rushed for like 170, 180 yards against them. Like this was the best rushing performance that I can remember the Saints had in a long time. Like they had a couple games, like maybe 2 or 3 games where they ran the ball this good last year. But to see it week one and see a healthy Alvin Kamara already having a game with 100 yards from scrimmage and has 1,000 yards receiving already. I mean, it don't get much better than that. So yeah, so the running game's back. You even Jamal Williams broke a run at the end. He didn't have to wait till week week 18 and do a fake kneel down to get his touchdown this year. So he was able to get a touchdown, which was nice. And let's see here on to so then let's see. Doing receivers here. Now on to the receivers we had. The didn't no one really balled out at the receiver position. I was a little surprised that Chris Olave only had 2 targets and 2 receptions just for 11 yards, but Rashid Shaheed is really the one that busted this game wide open early on with the Saints' first possession, where they scored a 59-yard touchdown off of a crazy throw from Derek Carr. You know, Derek Carr, a lot of people say that he's not tough, or he doesn't have good pocket present, or he doesn't stand in there and throw. Like he gets ruffled, his feathers get ruffled easily. I mean, on that throw, man, he had defenders in his face. He was in his like up on his tippy toes, trying to look over the offensive line, and then you just see him like wind up, and it looks basically just like a flick of the wrist for a 59-yard touchdown to Rashid Shaheed. So if you've been questioning Derek Carr, saying used car or anything like that, or questioning his arm strength, I mean, really the main thing that you can maybe question about Derek Carr is like his accuracy, but I don't think you can question his toughness or his arm strength at all, especially when you saw it on that play. And then the second leading receiver here was Foster Monroe, who had 4 targets and 4 catches. Like this was the best game Foster Monroe's had since he's been a Saint all last year. He only had like 3 catches for like 30 yards last year, but he had caught all 4 of his targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown, that may have been like the riskiest throw that Derek Carr like made all game was that touchdown throw. It was really late, and he was kind of throwing back across his body, and he caught Foster Monroe on a high pointed ball, and a defender coming right over right at the last second. So that was a little bit dangerous of a throw, but everything was working for the Saints last year, last Sunday in that last game against the Panthers. And talking about like late throws, this was also another one that was kind of a late throw. The touchdown to Juwan Johnson, where he caught it on the right side of the end zone, having to tiptoe. But before Derek Carr threw that throw, hell, Juwan Johnson was like wide open on the play. But yeah, it was nice to see Juwan Johnson back out there. If you're questioning whether he's healthy or not, I would say that seeing him make that crazy touchdown, toe drag swag touchdown catch, I think that answered a lot of questions. That was in the towards the end of the second quarter. But him making that touchdown grab, and then also later in the second half, he actually blocks a punt. That was the last person, honestly, I was expecting to see block a punt. The Saints were just everything worked for the Saints on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. They were blocking punts, they were getting interceptions, they were getting sacks. Just like anything they did worked on Sunday. It was just like a completely stress-free Sunday, basically, with that kind of performance that they put forward. And then on defense, we were talking about how Bryce Young, like their first play from scrimmage, threw an interception to Will Harris, and so that was kind of a bit of a surprise. Not just the interception, but Will Harris he was the starter. He was starting that free safety on that play. So it was a little surprise that you didn't see Jordan Howden in there, but seeing him in there, and I think that was kind of a sneaky signing of Will Harris because I mean he started before, so yeah, that was nothing new to him to be starting. But so you had that interception from him on an overthrow, and then Jordan Howden had a similar one as well. So you had uh, saw quite a bit of Will Harris and Jordan Howding, and as that game kind of got away, Tyrann Mathieu kind of took kind of lessened his snaps on that game because I mean it was becoming a blowout. So there's no reason for him to be out there anyways. And even when the bit that Tyrann Mathieu was out there, he forced a fumble and recovered it too. So they were forcing fumbles, getting interceptions, and then sacks as well. You had Alontae Taylor getting 3 sacks on the day, and he's leads the league. He's tied with Gregory Rousseau with 3 sacks on the league. So that's in the league, and Demario Davis had one as well. So you had 3 sacks, the 3 from Alontae Taylor and the 1 from Demario Davis. So they had 4 sacks uh, against Carolina. There weren't very many games last year where they had more than 2 sacks a game. So you saw that, and let's see here. And so we're talking about the pressure and stuff. We had Chase Young, who actually led the Saints in pressures, led the Saints team in pressures. He had 6 pressures and 2 quarterback hits, but he didn't have any tackles or sacks or anything. He had a bunch like on the 6. I'm talking about the 6 pressures he had that led the team. Hell, he had 6 almost sacks, and he had the quarterback hits, and he was blowing up plays and forcing plays to end up being tackles for loss on run plays. So I liked what I saw out of Chase Young as well. You know, and the numbers aren't coming yet, but just got to keep that motor going. The sacks will come, but that was exciting as well. That just seemed a lot. The defensive line just seemed a lot more disruptive when you add a piece like Chase Young to it. So that was nice to see as well. And then let's see, and then we're on the special teams now. So Rashid Shaheed making basically the 2 biggest plays of the game, the 59-yard touchdown, and then he had a 33-yard, uh, no, it was a 47-yard punt return that set the Saints up in the Carolina Panthers red zone. So he had plays of 59 and 47. So that was impressive at the at the at the returning spot. And then on kicking and punting, just with the kicking, I loved how the Saints and Dan Rizzi, who was part of the integral part of making this new kickoff, you know. So it seems like they kind of knew what they wanted to do with it. With having Blake Grupe, like every time he did the kickoff, he wasn't doing the touchbacks. He was wanting to kick it inside the 10 and like right at the edge of the goal line. So to force them to return it and forcing possibly they say every 25% of the time when a kickoff is made, like a return is, they actually bring it out. Hell, there's a penalty, so there could be a hold or anything like that that could back them up, or they could tackle them before they get to the 30-yard line, which is what they're averaging. So Blake Rupe just doing that was amazing, but it wasn't even that really was amazing for me. He made all 4 of his field goals, all 5 of his extra points. And those field goals he had some from 57, 52 yarders. A 57 is the longest of his career. So that was wild. And then really with Matthew Hayball, we don't have Lou Hartley anymore. I think that's what his name is. Already forgetting his name. Let's see. I'm thinking of Garrett. I'm putting Garrett Hartley and and uh, Lou Headley, not Hartley, Lou Headley together. So you didn't get to see Matthew Hayball. He had 2 punts with a long of 39, but one of them was inside the 20. So those are just kind of your numbers for the most part. So the Saints, as you can see, like pretty much everything they did worked. But then let's go on to kind of my game picks. So I ended up being about 30 points off from this game because I predicted that the score was going to be 27-20. So we got the score a little mixed up. Even the NFL got the Saints were scoring so fast and scoring so many points at one point in the game where it was supposed to show 37 to 3, it showed 40 to 3. Like even the scoreboards couldn't keep up with them. So I would say I wasn't even close to getting that score right. I got the Saints prediction right as them winning, but score not even. I couldn't even keep up or couldn't even make something up like that. That the Saints were going to completely almost score 50 points on the Carolina Panthers. 47 points being the most points the Saints have ever scored in an opening game of the year, and I think the most that they've scored since 2009 when they won the Super Bowl. So those are some things to think of. So I got the game pick right, but not the score. And then on my MVP, I picked Taysom Hill to be my MVP, but and I think he played well, but I just don't. He didn't get enough touches really in this game. He didn't throw the ball or anything like that, but he had 5 rushes for 35 yards and had 2 targets, 1 catch for 1 yard, and a long run of 12. So I couldn't say that I could give it to Taysom Hill, but if I was to like uh, name my MVPs for offensive, defense, and special teams. So offensively, I'd probably go with Rashid Shaheed just because of that 59-yard touchdown catch that he made. Just jolted the Saints, that jump started them to cruise to an easy win. And I know I'm kind of adding in his kick return too. I'm kind of adding that in a little bit. I'm adding in his 47-yard return, even though technically that's not offense, but he plays both, so it's hard to just ignore him making 2 of the biggest plays of the game. So I would say for my offensive MVP, the actual offensive MVP for this game, it would be Rashid Shaheed. And then defensively, it's pretty easy. It's not very often that a player gets 3 sacks, a pass deflection, 6 total tackles, five solo, 1 assist, and 3 quarterback hits. That's not very often that a defender puts up those kind of numbers, and it's not very often that a cornerback, a nickel or a dime player puts up those numbers. So it is easy picking the defensive MVP. And then offensive MVP, I guess you could make the argument that it's Rashid Shaheed for this too, but I'm just putting him at offense. But I'm giving it to Blake Grupe here because honestly, I think if he doesn't make a couple of those kicks, it could have maybe let the Panthers back in this game. They were up 7-0, and he's going to kick that 57-yarder. I mean, if he didn't miss that, if he missed that, didn't make it, and then the Panthers were starting at midfield after that, I think that game may have had a little bit of a different feel. Maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have had much different of an outcome, but I think we wouldn't have felt as comfortable as we did when we're having just everything working, and even your kicker is banging 50-yard field goals down the middle like it's nothing. So those are my actual MVPs for this game: is Rashid Shaheed offensive, Alontae Taylor defensive, and Blake Grupe. I think at least for now, I think we picked the right kicker between him and Charlie Smith. So that is my MVPs. And now to my hot take, which I think, I think there might be some people that would want to argue with it and say I wasn't right, but I think it's more right than you think. So originally I picked that, that we would see both of our offensive tackles struggle, and most of the hate has been on Trevor Penning. So I actually said that I thought, they are going to play okay. And surprisingly enough, Trevor Penning might actually play a little bit better than Talisi Fuanga. I don't think I could necessarily say that is what happened, but both of them played amazing, played great for pass blocking and just blocking rates and numbers. I believe Talisi Fuanga was the best rookie, and I think he may have been top 5 in just all offensive tackles. And both he and and Trevor Penning both had a holding penalty. That's something the Saints really needed to clean up. That's about the only negative in this game is that they had 10 penalties for 90 yards, almost 100 yards. So I said that about Trevor Penning, and I said that about Talisi Fuanga. And my thing was that I thought they were going to play okay and good, but surprisingly, I thought that Fuanga was actually going to be the one that gives up a sack. Well, I don't know if either of them officially gave up a sack, but on the only play that Derek Carr got sacked on was a play where he was kind of it looked like he had time in the pocket, and I don't know, it's like he tried to step up and tried to scramble and just kind of got eaten up by the defensive line there. But it looked like it came more over on the left, more on Fuanga's side. It may have been Lucas Patrick that actually gave it up, but any sacks given up in this game were more closely given up by Talisi Fuanga than Trevor Penning, who was just mauling people in the running game. So I think I might pat myself on the back here a little bit with the hot take. It ended up being less than a hot take than we realized, and maybe what came true. So that may have been the biggest surprise to me is just how good the offensive line played. But had to take it with grains of salt because of the opponent that it was. So that's pretty much all the player stats and game picks, MVPs, and hot takes. Really, the only other thing to kind of go over and go through and see if I can remember them all is the injuries. So we had some injuries throughout this game. The first one was Lucas Patrick, and they just ended up putting Landon Turner in there for him, and didn't see any difference really. I don't think the quality of player is that different between Lucas Patrick and Landon Young, so that probably helps. So was out, came out of that game with a toe injury, and then later in the game you saw Marshawn Lattimore kind of pull up lame with a hamstring or something. And then Willie Gay Jr., who was coming into that game with a bit of a back injury, and we did get to see him pass rush, kind of like I said in the previous podcast. We saw him used like that a little bit. He never made a big play or got a sack or anything, but we saw him used in that form. But he ended up going out of the game. I don't know if they specified exactly what it was. And then on a play where Foster Monroe like caught a pass and then got kind of hit out of bounds, and I don't know. He just looked kind of dazed after the play. So maybe he was concussed. So we already kind of knew this. This game against Panthers probably be the healthiest that they'll be like all year. So I predict the injury report to be longer. And man, if out of all of those, I guess it's don't not too concerned about it just because they have such depth at the corner position. But with Marshawn Lattimore, just the fact that he's been so injury prone lately, and then he seems like the last couple of years he gets like these relatively minor injuries and then is out for like half the season. So seeing him pull up lame like that, and I kind of blame him for that even happening because he's not in football shape. He didn't practice all training camp and didn't play in the preseason. So I kind of blame that on him, and not surprised that he got hurt because he's just wasn't in shape for it. And it happened like on a play where it was like a no contact hamstring injury. Hopefully it was just a cramp or something. But anyways, that's the Saints game, their first game of the year. They got Dallas Cowboys, a much more should be a much more competitive and a better grading scale on how good the Saints actually are. But I wouldn't have wanted this game to go any way else because it just makes everything more easy. It makes all the other games uh, more enjoyable to watch, and being stress free for basically like 2.5 hours of the game, like pretty much almost the entire game is just nice. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. We'll be back in a couple days to do the injury report and do my picks and MVPs and hot takes for the Dallas Cowboys game. But man, just hope we see more of this, and I hope the Saints can keep it up, and hopefully they're not too beat up after this game. But Anyways, I think that's all I'll have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?